You're watching Ask Brother Brad, where you have Bible questions and we, hopefully, have Bible answers. Brother Brad, one of the things that have helped me immensely in my Christian life is being able to read good Christian books. Good Christian books. So the question I have for you today is, what are some books that have influenced you the most in your Christian walk?
Well, there certainly have been some books that have influenced me in my Christian life. But let's rephrase that question. Should a Christian even read other books other than the Bible? When I first got saved at 17 years old back in 1971, I didn't get into the Word of God right away. I didn't get into church right away. I didn't grow right away. But a few years later, when the Lord got my attention, I realized I needed to stay underneath the influence of the Word. And so I remember telling the Lord that I would read the Bible for the first 20,000 hours of my life before I ever picked up any other book on Christianity. In other words, before I ever picked up a book on what someone else thought the Bible said, I was going to read the Bible for 20,000 hours. Now, I can't tell you how many years that took me to do that, but I did accomplish that, and it was the best thing that I ever did. Because after 20,000 hours of just reading the Scriptures, when you pick up another book, and there are some great books out there, you'll know whether these folks are really telling the truth or not. And isn't that the whole idea behind a good book, is whether it really is saying what it's supposed to be saying, it's supposed to be teaching the truth?
Yeah, I was talking to a young lady this week who was she asked me a question. She goes, I tried to Google it. It was a question about the Bible. I tried to Google it, but so much stuff came up, and she didn't know what she could trust and what she couldn't trust.
There it is.
So she asked me the question.
And you gave her a good answer.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully it was a biblical answer.
Well, let's go back to the question. Should a Christian read outside books other than the Bible? And the answer is yes. Okay. Now, I would suggest that you read a whole lot of Bible first before you ever read any outside works on the Bible. But definitely, we should read other books that people write about the Bible. And you say, well, how do you know that? In 2 Timothy chapter 4, before Paul was about to be beheaded, he asked Timothy to do three things. He said, bring me my cloak. It was cold in that dungeon in Rome. He said, bring me the books and bring me the parchments. Now, we know the parchments are Scripture. We know the cloak is a coat. What are the books? Well, the books Paul was talking about were extra-biblical books based on biblical history and biblical information that were good to read. Without a doubt, he probably wanted the book of Enoch or, one of the other books that are extra-biblical books. Now, a lot of them weren't scriptural, but, a lot of the books that we read today aren't 100% of everything we agree either. So there's going to be some truth in there, and Paul had enough knowledge of the Bible to know what was true and what wasn't. I have read a lot of books in the last 40 years after I put that first 20,000 hours into the Bible. And I have some favorite authors that have really absolutely changed my life. Abbot Thomas Keating, who is really a Catholic monk, his book, Crisis of Faith, is my number one book.
I've read that book too.
Yeah, and I've had folks that have read that book because I suggested it, and they couldn't get heads or tails out of it. Read it again. Read it again. It has got so much depth in it.
One of my favorite illustrations in that book where he talks about how the gospel is about transformation, and Jesus didn't turn the water into slightly better water.
Yeah.
He turned it into something different.
Yeah. No, I don't agree 100% with everything Abbot Thomas Keating writes, and not only that, he comes from a Catholic background, which Catholics don't believe in salvation by grace for the most part. But this guy is right on with salvation, and in that book, I couldn't find anything wrong. I'm sure there's other things he might have written that I might not agree with, but that's my favorite. That changed me, literally. My second favorite book would be Parables of Judgment by Capon, Robert Capon. Now, he's an Episcopalian priest from back in the 50s or 60s. Phenomenal book. Talk about a changer as far as my spirit. That book changed my spirit. My favorite author, I would have to say, is Harry Rimmer, Dr. Harry Rimmer. He's been dead for quite a few decades, but I've read just about everything he's ever put out. And the reason I like him is because he goes into the scientific facts of everything and how they coincide with biblical information, and I just love the way he presented everything. I also like C.S. Lewis's wife's book, Smoke on the Mountain, I think it is.
Yes, Joy Davidman.
Joy Davidman.
Smoke on the Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my all-time favorite books as well. It's about the Ten Commandments. If you're wanting to read anything about like the Decalogue, as she calls it, I would suggest starting with that book.
And what most people, what they want to do is they want to judge a book when they read it. No. We're never going to agree 100% with. I'm sure you and I don't agree, even though I would always be right. But no, we're not even going to agree. But that's okay. I'm going to listen to you. And if I don't agree with 2% of what you say, that's fine. I'm just going to rejoice on the 98%. Well, same thing with reading a book. There's good stuff in some of these books. And again, in Thomas Keating's book, I couldn't find anything wrong. Or the Parables of Judgment. But I don't look for it either. I just look to enrich my life, spiritually speaking. And so that's why I read these books. But I don't go into these books looking for problems.
Yeah.
I'm looking to be blessed. I mean, these are born-again people, and they got something to share. And so, I say read as much outside information as you can after you put about 20,000 hours into the Bible first.
I think you have to remember that all truth is God's truth.
Yes.
And so if it's true, it's from God. And if it's not true, well, it's not from God. Even Paul quoted the heathen poet Menander in I think 1st or 2nd Corinthians, where it talks about evil communication, corrupt good morals. That's a quote from Menander. And so that's a true quote, even though Menander was definitely not a saved man.
Right. So you can even get I enjoy Josephus's works, his Antiquities. I enjoy secular authors. I enjoy Christian authors the most. But I'll pick up anything that I can draw some kind of truth from. And so I say read, and there's a lot of great books out there. I mean, I got a whole list. I got 10 authors that I absolutely love.
Let's get to it. 10 authors, which you're absolute.
I probably have to open up my iPhone right now to look at it. But I'll give you the number 10 guy.
What's the number 10 guy?
The guy who wrote The Shack.
Okay.
I forgot what his name is. That would be my number 10 guy. Now, most people criticized him because they felt like, he was making God to be an Aunt Jemima and a female. But what he was really trying to say is God is neither male nor female, and he can show up in any, gender he wants to. He's spirit. God is not male, nor is he female. God is spirit. He was just portraying himself as either a male or female to the human race in this story called The Shack. I thought it was phenomenally written, and in fact, I read the book more than once. If I read a book more than once, I'm getting something that's insightful out of that book.
Like something we didn't talk about, but something like, what's a book that you would recommend for somebody in the infancy stage of a Christian life? What's a book that you recommend for them?
The Bible.
The Bible. Start with the Bible.
The Bible. Or I would suggest, I'm saved, now what?
We have.
You talk about something simple. In fact, I got to win a guy to Christ a month ago that works up here at a fast food place. He lives in Dallas. He has 2 jobs. One job is here in Greenville, and the other job is in Dallas. So he doesn't live here. And I got to win him to Christ at this eatery place. And he wanted to grow, but he couldn't get to church because he's so busy and he works so much, and he's only a 20-year-old kid, but carries himself very well. And so I gave him a copy of this because he's brand new saved, and he needs, if he's going to be consistent in the Christian life, he needs to get underneath the influence of the Word. And I told him, I said, there's enough Bible in here, it'll last you months if you'll read it. It'll not only show you how to get through the infancy stage, but it'll show you how to get to the adolescent stage and then eventually the adult stage. So, yeah, this would be a great book.
What's a book that you recommend for maybe the next stage, the adolescent stage? We didn't talk. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, let's just do the adolescent stage. No, I would get into doctrinal books for that.
Doctrinal?
Yes,
Books about theology,
apologetics.
apologetics.
That's the adolescent stage of the Christian life, and you can tell most Christians, I don't care how long they've been saved, they haven't even gotten through the adolescent stage because they don't even know doctrines. And that's what the adolescent stage, according to Hebrews 5:12 through 6:2, that's what the adolescent stage is all about. So they've got to get into these doctrines.
Like, what kind of books should Christians be reading that are in the adult stage?
Well, we just took the folks through
They're
the adult stage of the Christian life here at our church, and you're gonna have to master 7 things if you're going to be in the adult stage of the Christian life. One of them is you have to refuse to be money-minded. One is you have to fully understand the love God has for you, which Oswald Chambers has a great book. It's one of my favorite 10 books. It's called The Love of God, I think. I know he's known for the other one. I forgot the name of that book. He's well known, but I love that one there because that one really helps a person to grow into the mature stage of the Christian life.
I mean, these are all great suggestions. If you like this video, be sure and like this video. Also, be sure and subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.